This is From the Mezzanine, a film podcast. We are Matt and Chuck, and this is episode number 40. It's the final week of July, and today's episode will cover the Hulu original Not Okay. Also, it's been another busy week in Hollywood. We've got another jumbo-sized news section, and finally, we've got a sprinkling of everything else as we talk streaming releases, video games, a comic book, and have our final check-in with the 2022 Summer Movie Wager. As always, our opinions are uncensored and unsponsored. Chuck?
Thank you, Matt. Yeah, a little bit of everything this week. And some of it, and it's all kind of, in a way, it's different from what we normally would talk about to a degree, especially the main event, Not Okay. But we had a parting question that, I instantly knew what my answer was going to be. But I am more curious what your answer to this is. It was like basically this is the low light of 2022 so far. What's the worst piece of media? Film, TV, comic book, TV show, meme, any bit of culture that you just find awful and like a degenerate and something that holds the whole species back, if you will. What did you pick?
Yeah, so I was kind of racking my brain because, I don't seek out things that I know I'm going to hate. I don't seek out stuff that, is actively terrible. But I think there was that one little spot in February of this year where I think we got a little desperate with our choices. And so I chose February's Moonfall as the worst thing I've experienced. And so I was just a little slow that time of the year, and January was, pretty slow. We had done a couple of our special segment episodes and best of last year, and so we were kind of hankering to get back to the theater, and so we chose Moonfall. And I don't know, this thing was... It's crazy that Roland Emmerich can still get $140 million when he's such a has-been.
No shit,
and
right?
This film is just, it's a mess, and it's just the most banal, plotted, 1990s by the numbers trash. And on top of that, you have all of the product placement and the weird ties to China.
Yeah, the weird Chinese pop star that's relevant to no one in the West. And it wasn't even and that's a typical lame Hollywood move where it's we're desperate to have a market somewhere, so we'll just make the most base casting choice possible, basically. Now a thankless role, and all the product placement, all was it Lexus that just must have given them tens of millions of dollars or something. Yeah,
Lexus and Kaspersky, the antivirus company that was everywhere.
God, yeah, the Russian antivirus company. I wonder if anyone trusts that nowadays, given everything. But yeah, that's a very solid answer. And I kind of, I didn't really tell you everything that happened after I saw that movie. We went to it. Angie had a bad time, because we were sitting by very inconsiderate people. This lady literally was just pouring a bag of popcorn down her gullet, and it was very eldritch how she was eating that popcorn. But we
unhooks your jaw.
Yeah, and then we went to a bar. I believe it's called the Three Lions on Main Street in Mandan. I had one beer there that was skunk to hell, and then I went home and threw up. And I think that sums up what the experience is like. You think you're getting something decent, maybe a little bit, just because I remember seeing Independence Day in theaters and having my mind blown. But I was 6 years old. A 32-year-old man cannot watch that movie and actually have a good time. I challenge you. I am more of a masochist than you, I think, even though I also generally avoid experiences I know will be awful. But I am the guy that watched the woman in the window across the street from the girl in the house, or whatever that fucking show was. So I really can't claim to, any, standard here. So I also watched an uncomfortable amount, not the full thing, but I still know it's terrible because I quit on it. Because I knew I was going to quit on it. And that's why I watched it. But it's God's Favorite Idiot, the latest in the cavalcade of like awful films coming from Melissa McCarthy's like no talent husband.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it's not just a movie. Like Thunder Force was awful enough, and that was like what 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours, I forget. But this thing is a freaking limited series where Falcone plays, or Falcone, however you say his fucking name, he plays this sad sack like office employee who suddenly just gets touched by God, and he doesn't even really realize it right away, like what's been going on with him. But all he cares about is getting a date with the most awful combination of Melissa McCarthy character, like stereotypes, like loud, obnoxious, fat, gross, like swears a lot, steals, is constantly doing drugs. Like every character flaw you could think of for a human being is just wrapped up in what is supposed to be the love interest. And it's also just one of the worst fucking things I've ever seen. But I think it's like an endurance test. How far can you fucking make it? If you can actually fucking watch that thing from frame 1 to like the end, then you deserve like a winning lottery ticket, because I don't know how you could watch that and enjoy it.
Yeah, he sucks. He's like, I think I told you about how I watched that Hulu series 9 Perfect Strangers.
Yes.
And he popped up in that too, and that was like really bad because it's not even a comedic show. So he pops up and he tries to do a dramatic role, and it's just awful. And
yeah,
and the whole time, I mean, you're always so like hyper aware of who he is and that he is Melissa McCarthy's husband, so it kind of takes you out of whatever you're watching because that's immediately what you think of. So yeah, just terrible. I have no doubt that you're right on that. So what was that? Was that like a Netflix movie or show or something, or what was that?
Yeah, they must have given her and I guess like their production company rather some kind of fat fucking deal, because Netflix is just like, what do people fucking like? They love Melissa McCarthy. We're gonna just load our library up with original Netflix content with Melissa McCarthy in it, and it'll just rake in the money. It's like their Adam Sandler deal. Except Adam Sandler actually has a finger on the pulse of the people and has an ounce of talent and will still in him, and he can accomplish more with that small little ounce of both of those qualities that he still can leverage than this power couple will ever fucking achieve. And I don't know why anyone gives them money. So it's a little like cheap of me to just kick them because they're already down. Like they just keep sinking, and it's their own doing that they sink. But it's really bad. Like, I don't know why anyone does business with them at this point. It's just because of her. Because Bridesmaids was such a big deal, and some other movies she made, I guess, made some money. I don't know, like The Heat, was that a big deal? I don't remember. And then there was like a spy movie. Yeah, like, I don't know. I've just never been a Melissa McCarthy fan. Like, I'm a hipster about her. I love Gilmore Girls. Suki Stackhouse is like one of the best television characters ever. And she just like hates that that's where she started. You know what I mean? She resents her origin, but that'll always be like the performance from her career, that is actually gonna be worth going back to someday. I can't imagine anyone is collecting the Melissa McCarthy video library. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But moving on now. There is some crazy shit coming out of a lot of different places right now. And some of it's fake news, some of it is real. And we all kind of got snookered by fake news on this one, Matt. At least I think we did. But the Duffer Brothers apparently are monsters who will go back and like Lucas episodes of Stranger Things to like change things. But is it actually true? What? Like, tell us this story. Like how did this like grow and die in an instant as a narrative?
Yeah, so this is they kind of swindled everyone because they basically in an interview said that they went back and edited old Stranger Things seasons for stuff, and they didn't say exactly what, and the fans, their rabid fan base kind of took it from there and just assumed that they were talking about the scene from season 1 where Jonathan takes a photo of what's her name? What's the character's name in the show?
I know her actress's name is Natalia Dyer.
Yeah. He basically, they thought that he had taken a photo of her in like her bra when she was in like the upstairs bathroom of like a party or something.
Yeah, like she and mop-haired guy who's friends with the small boy. You know, I don't remember these characters' names either, but like it's the moment where Barb is getting killed by the Demogorgon and everybody else is getting laid. You know, like, you know, 80s lesbian Barb is getting cucked by the Jock once again, and then she gets murdered on top of it by a monster from another dimension. And meanwhile, that dude is just taking, you know, like fap photos. And yeah, at the time in that episode, I was like, damn, this is subversive. Like, that's part of the edge that first season of the show had, that got softened in the middle too, but kind of came back in the fourth. Yeah, like. Yeah,
this was kind of a one of those like Bernstein Bears,
Mandela effect things.
Yeah, people thought that they remembered something that never really happened, and so basically TikTokers took it from there and they blew it up, and all these people wrote articles about this.
Yeah,
and I guess I'll point out like this Kim Renfro from Insider, like shame on her for not doing her due diligence with this, because
it's right there. You just have to fucking pull it up and watch it. And I mean, hell, if you really want it to be crazy, like Angie and I bought they made like VHS style cases for like the first season that you could get.
Oh, okay.
Then that was pretty cool. But if we would just, all you'd have to do is throw on like a DVD or a Blu-ray of it, and you could instantly verify what was original and what wasn't, you know? And nobody fucking did that. And everyone just jumped, hey, I got to publish. I got to get those clicks.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing of it is, this is something that does happen. I think I talked about how Amazon edits the streaming version of the British show Utopia. They completely
that's right.
they defang that fucking show from the first scene on the streaming version that they have. So when I heard that, you know, when I see the headline, I'm like, that tracks. Everyone's doing it then, apparently. It's too easy. You know, it's treating, you know, art like a Wikipedia, you know, article that you're just, you know, changing on the fly. And, you know, it's kind of a brilliant thing, but it also creates a situation like with video game developers where you get a half-baked, like, beta version of the product that they are just gauging your reaction to. And just, you know, like, they're just tweaking things based on what the algorithm tells them. You're like, that's a dark future for like TV and things like that, because then it's not permanent. It's this amorphous thing that just adjusts to the hive mind, and that's pretty fucking dystopian, if you ask me.
Yeah, and then the sort of second... So, I mean, this whole part, everything we've talked about until this point, should have never even, like, happened, basically, because it's all for nothing. But the second part to this story, which actually makes it a story, in my opinion, is the Duffer Bros are basically lying, because the Twitter account for the Stranger Things writers' room basically said... Nothing has been changed in Stranger Things, and nothing ever will be changed or edited. Yeah. And so they're basically just lying.
Yeah.
And
I don't know why.
Why do you think that is? Do you have any sort of theories?
I don't know. It might be some like kayfabe, like fifth dimensional chess thing, where they were maybe being pressured to do something like that, or like Netflix was behind the scenes basically saying, hey, we're going to be doing this kind of thing going forward. So, you know, like, be active in the discussions, or we're going to make decisions without you. And instead of doing that, they were like, let's just leak it to the media and make everyone hate the idea of us doing it so that we won't have to do it. I think that's what was going on. If there's any like headcanon tinfoil I can have, it's that it's fifth dimensional chess on the Duffers brothers' part to just to conserve their art, you know, because they're serious auteurs.
Yeah, I think you're on the right track there. It's either something like that, or it's like they're putting it out there to gauge the reaction to it, to see if they actually could get away with doing something like that. and obviously the reaction was bad, so they're not going to. I think this is just like a nothing story at this point because they're not gonna do anything to that extent.
Exactly. Yeah, no, this is classic nothing burger, utter just media malpractice that we have grown too accustomed to, and the consequence should just be a lack of credibility and a lack of audience as a result of it. But of course, people are still just going to check in on all these journalists whenever they blast out anything because they have a blue check mark and a Twitter following, and that's all that is required to have credibility today. Because this is super relevant to the movie we're going to talk about later, just in terms of it's like what the fuck happened to ethics and like basic journalistic practices, because like anything can just become fact and true, if only glanced at, but an ounce of scrutiny makes the whole thing fall over generally. But that's because we are all too focused on more important things, Matt. And what can be more fucking important than fucking Phase 5 and Phase 6 of the Marvel panel at Hall H, the fabled Hall H at San Diego Comic-Con. I don't know if I don't know if I ever was actually in the room, but I know you were. Like you walked to the halls. You sat in a chair.
I was lucky enough to get a chair. I wasn't in the standing room, but I had in 2011 attended the Drive panel and the what was the Guillermo del Toro thing he was shilling that year? Whatever that was, but
Mother, directed by the eventual director of It Part 1 and 2.
That's right.
Yeah, okay. And he was super fucking salty because no one gave a shit about him, I recall.
Yeah.
But this year, it was all about the whatever the fuck Marvel's doing.
Yeah, this literally happened like an hour after we stopped recording last week, so I was pissed. But yeah, they basically revealed their slate for the next like 6 or 7 years, and just they phase 4, 5, and 6 are now like pretty much completely revealed, and they're calling this saga the multiverse saga, as they did the last saga, which was the Infinity Saga or whatever it was called. So, and they pretty much, they blew everything out, and there are no more secrets except for the eventual other films that are going to be in Phase 6, because there's no way it's just going to be 3 movies. So, I don't know. What do you think of this? What gets you excited? What has you worried?
I don't know. Like, a part of me wants to be dismissive, just because I generally am. But, that's just because I'm not really giving them a fair shake. It is pretty brave of them to go in this very, very comic booky direction. Like, they went with safe choices and safe storylines in their initial rollout of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And whatever this is really only cool to like the fucking Marvel zombies that have been grabbing those books their entire lives. Like, who get like I don't know, like Kang is cool, but just to like fucking nerds. Like, normies don't, I don't know. Like, I don't know if normies are going to really like the multiverse shit. Because typically that's
the thing is, you would have said the same thing about Thanos, though.
Maybe I don't know. Yeah.
Because the first time, I still remember, back the very, very first time that they teased Thanos, when he was like, he turned around and it was just a big, a big purple guy, and nobody knew who that was, and that was kind of the narrative that was going around, was all the Marvel fans and whatever audience were screaming and hollering, and everybody else was just like, who the fuck is that?
Yeah, and I guess this is what I was trying to get at. This was the thought I was having, is just that the audience is trained. Like, the Marvel movie fans, even if they're casual and just like, hey, it's on Disney Plus, now I'll watch it, they're basically going to be by they're trained. It's like they kind of know what the new program is, which is a lot of television content, more so than movies. I know you said they might have some tricks up their sleeve, but a lot of what they're putting out there is just stuff connected to their big hits on TV, or or resurrections of old shows. I guess the stuff that I was more so excited about was like Daredevil getting brought back,
Yeah.
whatever Heroes for Hire is going to end up being. But as far as if there's like, yeah, Agatha, I don't could give a shit about, but She-Hulk is just going to win just because of the degenerates on the internet just won't be able to stop themselves. Something will be awakened in every manlet on the planet, and they'll all love big green girls. That's, like, there are certain things that are going to work for a lot more people than expected, but I think some of these creative choices of like what is getting made are kind of strange. I don't think people really are going to like Agatha that much unless she winds up being like really integral to whatever is going on in the long term. Like, this is where that whatever they used to do with the comics is just what they're doing with the movies. I think I've talked about this before, but it's going in so many fucking directions, and I think that, obviously that's the point. But yeah, like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 almost feels like a holdover. We should have had this movie like last cycle. You know what I mean? That's what it feels like to me. I know that.
So the thing is, I think we're entering a phase where people are going to get more comfortable with skipping certain things.
Oh, absolutely.
And watching whatever they feel like, because there's just so much of this out there. And I think that, you brought up Guardians 3, and Guardians 3, I don't think is going to matter much in the grand scheme of things, because you have to look at behind the scenes of these movies, at what's going on with contracts and stuff like that. And everybody's contract that's in the Guardians is up after this movie, and no one's coming back, essentially.
That's what I mean. Like, it seems like a vestigial like organ that is just getting cut off, and that movie is going to be the surgery. So it's going to hurt, because a lot of those characters are probably either going to die or just have their stories completed. And if they ever come back, it'll be as a novelty, and it won't be expected, and they won't be a major part of whatever these new phases are going to be. Yeah,
because I mean, the TV shows, if there's one thing that they've kind of taught me, it's that they're completely unnecessary to the grand scheme of things. Like, you could literally skip all of them. And, when I look at this list of all these things, I could tell you the exact ones that are probably going to be actually germane to the overarching story, and the ones that you could skip. And the ones that are going to be the only ones that are going to be necessary, in my opinion, are going to be Ant-Man 3, Secret Invasion, Captain America, Fantastic Four, and then the Avengers movies.
Okay.
Everything else is going to be either in its own little section of this universe, or it's just not going to matter at all to the finale of this saga, which is going to be these two Avengers movies, the Kang Dynasty and then Secret Wars. And so, I don't know, people just have to get more comfortable with that idea, I guess, about skipping things. I mean, there's always going to be people that watch everything, but I think what we've seen with Thor is kind of a and Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel's the worst performing MCU show yet, and so I think what we're seeing is people kind of beginning to come around to the idea of only watching what they're actually interested in.
Because this was something I was going to ask you. Do you think the opposite could happen with the TV content? Do you see that potentially just actually becoming more important and having more relevancy to what happens in the tentpole films? Like, what if it goes in the opposite direction?
That would be interesting. I don't think so, because I guess I would have to see Disney's numbers as far as how much they make off of Disney Plus versus how much they make off of like an Avengers movie, because I think that will kind of tell you the answer to that question, because it's, if their subscriber numbers are giving them more money than the biggest MCU movies at this point, maybe I think there's maybe some merit to that idea, but at this point, no way.
Because so your average streamer, when they're quantifying, how valuable a property is to them, or a particular piece of content or a franchise, do they just look at, okay, our subscriber numbers are this, and this much of our subscriber base are watching Y content, therefore it is worth this much to us? Is that basically just like what the algebra is? or is there maybe more to it?
I think it's. I mean, it pretty much. Yeah, it comes down to numbers and money. So I mean, like, take for instance, like Netflix. You know, we've talked about them a whole bunch, and Netflix is still the biggest streaming service, but because they've been hemorrhaging so much, they're like in the shitter, like for this year. So it's like you can still be on top and still, but be considered, you know, doing bad, I guess. So
yeah.
I don't know. I just think they're always going to keep like the main events to the theaters and keep kind of the hangers on, you know, kind of on Disney Plus. You know, they'll keep people satisfied with Disney Plus, but never give them the goods. Basically, is what I think is what they're going to do.
So I'm just imagining, you know, this is another dystopian view of where this is going, Matt. It's not just going to be, oh, well, yeah, we'll put the Avengers movies out in theaters. No, they're going to do traveling road shows. It'll show in it'll travel around the country and it'll run for specific amounts of time. So yeah, they're going to geo-lock it. They're going to make you travel. They're going to make you come to them to see it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think that's where it's really going to go. Because yeah, you turn it into a convention. Imagine if at every Star Wars celebration, that is like the only way you could see the latest Star Wars movie. Like,
oh my god, yeah, that'd be horrible, and it'd be like $100.
Yeah, if not more. Yeah. You know, if you think like because that's when it's truly a religion. But it's going to be interesting to see what these movies do. They have me a little bit more interested just because I'm vibing with how bizarre they're going. Like these don't feel like safe, like villain choices or storyline choices. Like Secret Wars, depending on which Secret Wars they're adapting, but I imagine it's not the 80s version, you know, which is just like a glorified like arena battler, you know, in like an alternate dimension. You know, like the original story is a lot less interesting than Skrulls, you know, like body swapping with, you know, a bunch of different heroes and taking everything over. I don't know. Like, but
I think they're going to do the newer one because it seems like that's what they're leading up to with Secret Invasion and just even like the post-credit scene. Did you ever see Miss Marvel or
Captain Marvel?
Captain Marvel, yeah. Did you ever see Captain Marvel?
I have to apologize to my queen. You know, what's her name?
Brie Larson.
Brie Larson. I have never seen a single frame of Captain Marvel.
Okay, you don't need to, but I was just bringing it up because the after credit scene in that kind of begins the Secret Wars storyline.
Okay.
So that's, I think they're definitely leaning towards the more recent Jonathan Hickman one.
So are we gonna get Jude Law back as a Skrull, or is that something that I imagined?
He was, but I think he was killed off.
He did? That's too bad.
He's dead.
See, that's why you can't kill off your villains, but you know, everybody's gotta die. I'll tell you one thing that did not die, Matt. It's like you cannot kill the Batfleck. Because Johnny Depp decided to marry Amber Heard, a lot of dominoes fell. And one of those consequences was Amber Heard being unpersoned and removed from all of her work. So whatever she had shot for Aquaman 2 is by the wayside, and now instead we're getting Ben Affleck fresh off of his like Italian Mediterranean honeymoon with J-Lo, where he's like bawling and flabby. They're putting him back in the fucking bat suit for a cameo in this movie. I don't know what to make of this.
Yeah, it's so weird, and the way that they revealed this is even weirder. Like a week after Comic-Con, where they presumably should have revealed this, it's just like a Instagram post from Jason Momoa, and I mean, I think it all has to do with like they didn't want people to think about Flash or Aquaman because of the people involved, so that's why they didn't bring those up at Comic-Con. But yeah, this is weird. This is so strange, and of course now you have all the people who are bringing up like the Snyderverse stuff again because of this, and so
yes. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I really question the choice. They could have done fucking anybody. Put fucking Green Lantern in this. Put Martian Manhunter in it. Like, you need to disassociate from the Snyderverse. I didn't always agree with you, but I've come around just because of how good the Batman was and just how I prefer the dead end, legacy for whatever Zack Snyder was doing. Like, we need to disentangle ourselves from that universe. We broke off, Harambe died, and now we're here.
Yeah, I mean, they could even, like... I mean, Zack Snyder for sure isn't coming back, but the Snyderverse itself, I guess, could still technically keep going, because you still have, Wonder Woman set in that universe, Shazam is set in that universe, Peacemaker's set in that universe. Most of their movies are still in that universe, so it's like, they could keep going with it, but I think what they're really trying to do here is they're trying to beat Marvel to... They're either trying to beat Marvel or keep pace by pace, blow by blow with Marvel on this whole multiverse thing, because from reports, the Flash movie has a lot to deal with, do with multiverses, and they technically have 3 different universes going now, with this one, the Joker universe, the Todd Phillips universe, and the Matt Reeves universe. So, will they connect them all? Should they connect them all? I don't know.
Oh my god. Could you imagine Joaquin Phoenix Joker and Jared Leto Joker having like a battle together? How glorious that would be, Like, it would be ridiculous, is what it would be.
Yeah, but it would be nuts. Like,
so here's but like the thought I'm having here, is like, why, like, the same thing happened with Marvel. They let Whedon have a lot of control over the tone and like how things went story-wise and how the characters were handled. But the Russos were the ones who just fucking actually made something of it and stuck the landing. So who's going to be the Russos, in this, from passing the reins from Snyder, yanking them out of Snyder's hands? Who are they actually going to give them to have a coherent, I guess, vision for it all? Or is it that they lack a Feige? It's like, which is it? The Russos or the Feige? Do they need one or both, or, the none?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, probably both. But I think if anyone's going to get that job, it's going to be Matt Reeves, because I mean, it's not going to be someone like Todd Phillips, because he's kind of too much of like a loose cannon, and he wants to do, his own thing, and his art. He wants to make his art. But Matt Reeves is I think Matt Reeves is a lot more moldable into what they want. Mm-hmm. And so he would probably be the guy, I would think. It's not going to be James Wan either, because James Wan, is the guy who's doing Aquaman and Aquaman 2, and I think he likes to jump around a lot more, because he just did that Malignant movie.
Yes.
Yeah. Was that last year?
I think, or was that 2020? Yeah. I can't remember which year it was. Maybe it was just last year. Yeah.
Mm. But yeah, it's not going to be him either, because I don't think he likes to stay on one thing for too long. So, because he's been all over. I mean, he's done a Fast and the Furious movie. He's done the Conjuring movies. He's done his own little, horror movie side projects. So, it's going to be Matt Reeves if it's going to be anyone, I think.
Okay. Because my thought was James Gunn.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if they would throw enough money at him, I guess they could probably get him to do anything.
I think it depends on what actually happens with Guardians 3. Because if that is what we suspect it to be, which is the closure, like the last bit of connective tissue from the initial phases being cut off, then maybe then he would be done with working with Marvel too. And he'd be more willing to take the reins of, crafting whatever this is. Because, if it's not Matt Reeves, at least, because he's moldable, then it'd be, James Gunn, because he actually has a vision and the ability to work with, comic book characters in a way that people like, and actually is, watchable, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see real quick if he actually has anything, like, coming up. James Gunn, because I mean, he's a busy guy, and I don't know what he's doing after Yeah, he has nothing on his plate right now after Guardians 3. So I think, yeah, that's a really, really good theory.
We'll just have to see. It's kind of exciting, but that's a lot of questions just from a simple editing decision on a movie that's been in the can maybe for a while. That they just have to keep pooping extra content into to fill in the gaps because they keep on slicing and dicing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll just have to see. It's a strange time. I thought Batfleck was gone. It was uneven as his tenure, in the cowl was. I have a soft spot for him in the role, but yeah, I had kind of already said goodbye, and I'm not ready to just say hello again.
Yeah, I think the thing about Batfleck is, as many people that dislike the movies he's in, it seems like he gets pretty rave reviews for the character itself. Like
Yeah,
a lot of people, I don't know a lot of people that dislike Ben Affleck's Batman as like a character. So I think it's, if anything, having the character in Aquaman 2 is gonna do nothing but help that movie. So
that's probably true. Moving on, brief little streaming section. I checked out a documentary series on HBO Max called The Anarchists that explores this community of anarchists that started moving to Acapulco and organizing a convention every year called Anarchapulco. And some people would just go to this convention, have such a good time, feel so energized that they just stay there. So the anarchists kind of became well known within the community, and this documentary, the documentarians were embedded with a lot of the principal organizers and some of the main figures for several years, going back to the beginning of the convention in 2017, I think, maybe 2016. But pretty interesting. It explores, the reality that there's a class issue in anarchism, which you think would be impossible. But there's the tech bro crowd, the people who are just there to get people to, come to the convention to shill their crypto coin, of the moment, or, whatever it is, or they're the genuine, stateless people, like this couple who were just traveling with their medical marijuana through a state they shouldn't have been, and then found themselves charged federally, with hundreds of years of distribution charges. So they flee to Anarchapulco because they're like, hey, we're real anarchists, and they were probably the most real anarchists there. And if there's a storyline, it's kind of tracking the conflict between those two groups of the true blue anarchists who basically use Bitcoin to subsist because they can't get a bank account and they're just renting a house in Mexico, or it's the tech billionaires who have mansions because they got a fuck ton of Bitcoin when it was cheap and then wound up being multimillionaires on paper, but then the rise and fall of price and all these different things. But it gets pretty exciting. There's murder and a lot of tragedy, but it's illuminating, and I had no idea that any of this was going on.
is this sort of, you mentioned there's murder. Is this framed as a murder true crime documentary, or what is it framed as?
It's actually better framed. It's actually, to its credit, framed more so just as, hey, look at this group of people, look at what they believe, and look at how they take their beliefs into practice. That's what it's focused on. The consequences of the conflict result in a death, but I haven't seen the latest episode. But the death that does occur, it is unclear whether it's derived solely, from misunderstandings between the cartels in Acapulco, because they normally tolerate the anarchists because they buy drugs, and bring people to there to buy drugs. So they're actually tight with the cartels. But there's a bunch of since they get a lot of unstable people, and there's one dude who's, I forget his name. It's Andrew, but he brings a crypto ATM in a broken down school bus across the border to the first Anarchapulco that they had, and then it broke down, so he never left. But he was functionally homeless and erratic. He was a war veteran, and because of a lot of his activities, it kind of disrupts a lot of the relationships and cause a lot of the drama to happen. And so it's very interesting all the way through. It's well made. The filmmakers only really insert themselves when they can't avoid it because they're like stuck in these cramped glass elevators with people. But at the same time, they do narrate. It's not. Did you ever see the Q documentary, like Into the Rabbit Hole or whatever it was called, Down the Rabbit Hole?
Yeah, the one about the guy in like the Philippines or whatever.
Yeah, I would compare it this to that as far as tone and how like how informative and illuminating it is. It's fascinating because like a lot of these people I'd seen on YouTube over the years, but I had no idea that they were part of something larger, nor had I quite understood the role they were playing in how certain things were gaining prominence. And ultimately the question is, what really is anarchy, and like, is it actually tenable? And of course, like a lot of the individuals who call themselves anarchists actually probably feel differently about it after the experiences in this. But I'd recommend it. It's pretty good. If you ever want to you kind of understand why Bitcoin is part of the greater fool theory of economics, this illustrates it. That's why it's kind of worthwhile. And you are here to are you going to reevaluate a show? Did you already speak on Evil?
No, I've never talked about it on the podcast before.
Okay.
So, yeah, this is more of a, I guess I have talked about it, I think, in the past, only in the context of I thought it was dumb.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
But yeah, so my wife and I, we were looking for like a new show to watch after we caught up with Better Call Saul. And so, yeah, we kind of settled on Evil. And I've been told a lot of things about this show over the years. A lot of people saying like, this is great. This show's awesome. It's surprisingly good, stuff to that extent. And, I was always kind of like, can this really be that good? Like, it's a CBS show, and it's from like the husband and wife showrunner team, Robert and Michelle King, who did the show The Good Wife, if you remember that show. And so, yeah, I was just kind of skeptical, but I'm here to tell you that this show rules. And it's in the same vein. Did you ever watch the NBC Hannibal series?
I did. I rather liked it.
Yeah, this is sort of in the same vein as that, because it's one of those shows where the whole time you're watching it, you're like, how did this get on network TV? Like, how is this a CBS show? And then you kind of say the same thing about Hannibal on NBC, because it's so violent and it's so like, it's just not a procedural. It's not the type of show that goes on those channels typically.
Yeah. And this is coming to us from the husband-wife team of mom shows.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's just it's so weird. And the premise is the Catholic Church hires these three people, a psychologist, a priest, and then a sort of contractor, just kind of a handyman contractor type guy who knows a lot about computers and stuff like that, to investigate like these supposed supernatural occurrences as to whether or not they are actually supernatural or if they're like hoaxes or like people being crazy, or it's stuff like miracles and possessions and stuff that like the Catholic Church would be involved with. And the show it's episodic, so you get a plot every episode, a new plot with like an overarching structure every season, kind of like Star Trek was. And it's just so weird, and it's so like the week to week plot lines are so unique. Like there was an episode a couple of weeks ago where they went to a tech startup that made a chamber to like measure whether or not a person loses weight when they die, to see if they can measure a soul, basically.
The 23 grams thing. Okay.
And
Okay.
so they put that into a plot line, and then there was a in like another season there was a plot line about they went to a monastery where a bunch of monks lived to investigate the dead body of this monk that he had died a year previously, but he has not decomposed at all, basically.
Oh, okay.
And so it's very strange stuff.
Oh, so like
and,
an incorruptible. Okay, yeah, I see.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I really, really like this. This show has benefited so much from being moved over to Paramount Plus, because the first season was CBS, and then they moved it over to Paramount Plus because the show has such like a really, really big fan base that's really devoted, but it's not, the biggest. It doesn't justify being on CBS, basically.
Okay.
And it's benefited from that because they can be gorier, they can have more mature themes, they can, obviously they can swear and do all that stuff, but it's very, very unique, and it's just, I can't stress how weird this show is. It gets so bonkers because there's like, in the second and third seasons especially, like demons start showing up, and
so this is like Supernatural for adults.
Yeah, pretty much. Like the overarching story to the show is a group of Satanists have put investment into a fertility clinic under a shell company because they are birthing babies under satanic sigils, basically.
Yes, dude. So oh my god. I am into it.
Yeah, it's wild.
It. Oh my god.
So I can't recommend this show enough. Like, I was so wrong, and I'm more than willing to eat my crow about this show because it is way better than it has any right to be.
And I am more excited for watching this than I really should be. But holy shit, like I am here for that. Trying to like mass produce moon children. Yeah. That like not even Aleister Crowley could be that evil.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, it's pretty awesome, and
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, check it out. It's currently in the middle of its third season on Paramount Plus, and I think it should be wrapping up in the next couple of weeks here. And it already got greenlit for a fourth season, so there's going to be more.
Fuck yeah, dude. Let me see. Let me pull up the schedule here. Let me remind myself where we're at. Okay, yeah, now we're just ready to jump into our mentionables. I don't have a funky graphic for it, unfortunately. But you were able to play an expansion for Hitman 3 called Ambrose Island.
Yeah, so watchers of the podcast will know that I had Hitman 3 on my best of 2021 list. And I was really excited for this because they had announced this a couple months back. And out of nowhere, at the beginning of this week, they're just like, boom, it's out. Boom, it's free. Go get it. And yeah. Like nobody knew that it was gonna be free, and that's so awesome. Like they easily could have charged like $10 or $15 for this, because this is a whole new map. This is a whole new new set of targets, a new set of like masteries because the idea with Hitman maps is they're big sandboxes that you go to and you find a way to kill a number of targets on the map, and there are multiple ways to do it, and you basically play the maps over and over until you basically master all of the challenges on the map.
Okay. So it's almost it's like an adventure game, like almost.
Yeah, it pretty much. It's very sandboxy. It's very like there are like storylines that you can follow to get like certain assassination attempts on each map, like unique assassinations. And the idea behind this one is this is set after the events of the third game, and you're basically kind of mopping up the people who got away at the end of the third game. And the main guy in this one is basically one of the members of this Ark society that got away from the third game, and he's taken refuge on a small island where he has enlisted the help of a Somali pirate to hide him, basically.
Okay.
And so that's what you go into this expansion as, is basically you're hunting this guy down, and then you're hunting down the leader of this group of pirates.
Okay.
That's helping him, and yeah, it's really, really great. This game is so awesome, and it just, it keeps getting better, and I'm so excited to see what the company is called IO Interactive that made this game, and they are going to be the guys who are making the next James Bond game, and I'm so excited to see what they're going to do.
Oh my god,
yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Holy shit! Especially since it's going to be an original Bond. Like they're just going to cast an actor. They're not going to. It's not tied to a movie Bond at all. That sounds dope. That sounds really.
Yeah,
dope.
It's going to be awesome.
I'm also gonna kind of highlight something I had streamed about earlier in the week, but I kind of got interrupted, so I'll give a more proper discussion on the virtues of Into the Breach's new free content dump. Boom, here it is, have it. Not only that, if you have a Netflix account subscription, you get this game for free on on your TV, I guess, or on your Netflix account, because they're getting into games. So if you have a Netflix account, you have this game, and that's kind of why I'm bringing it up, just because of the synergy of streaming and gaming now. But the premise of this, it's roguelite. This is from Subset Games, the same people who made Faster Than Light, FTL, and you are controlling a team of mechs, or mech pilots that have been sent from the future to the past to try and stop an alien invasion of Earth, the Vec, as they're called. And so you're just dropped on a grid. You choose your initial starting position, and it's turn-based. And you just try and stop the cities from getting destroyed, make sure that certain resources aren't destroyed. Sometimes you have to meet objectives like not killing a certain Vec on the field. You have to keep that one alive, because if you get certain more objective points, you can level up, you can purchase better weapons, that kind of thing. And each map section, you have 6 turns to either just survive or fulfill objectives, and it can get punishingly hard as the game goes on. It's you might be able to get through the first island pretty easy, but even on normal low difficulty levels, shit escalates. And this new content pack that they just released, just like with FTL, that was free, and it just levels the game up. It gives you another 5 teams of mechs that you can unlock. It gives you a whole bunch of new features. If you level up, you can get certain hero attributes. If you're popular, if you save a lot of people, and and you are highly leveled, then you start out boosted and you deal double damage as long as you aren't damaged yourself. So a lot of, and yeah, just a fuck ton of new weapons and new synergies you can get out of different combinations. It's a lot of fun to just burn through and do different runs, see how quickly you can beat the game, see if you can even beat it on they have a difficulty level called punishing now. And the gimmick of the game is that if you if you die, you can pick one of your 3 pilots and go back to the past and try again. So and throughout the game, you can even collect pods that have new pilots in them, and that's another addition. There's 10 new pilots you can get that have different special abilities that they have.
And it's kind of is this sort of Advance Wars? I've only played. I've never played this.
It's similar to Advance Wars in that it's turn-based. FTL is real time. This is turn-based, to that extent. So yeah, it looks an awful lot like Advance Wars, but you're not building things and you're not gathering resources. You're simply just focused on killing bad guys, protecting things, and sometimes you have to make calculated choices. Sometimes you have to let civilians die so that you can stop the battery generators from getting destroyed, or keep the artillery alive. Or you have to destroy the dam, or you have to destroy 3 mountains. So you have to calculate, well, what do I care about more? Because if you have a power grid meter, and if that hits 0, you lose. So every time a building is hit, that goes down, unless you're fulfilling objectives that give you power back. So this is kind of like a really souped up board game, basically.
Yeah, I've always been interested to try this out because I have played FTL and I really like that game. Also, punishingly hard. But, yeah, very fun.
Yeah, highly recommended. Highly recommended. And our next little mentionable here, I thought they had retired the Prestige format. Matt, it's back.
Yeah, well, I don't think it ever left.
It never left. Okay.
They've been churning out these Black Label books since, gosh, I don't know, 2016 I think is when DC started that initiative, and this one is. So I got this this past week. The third issue of 3 came out, and people who read comic books will know that the artist on this and the writer, his first time writing, is Jock.
That man is a fucking savage. He's a beast. He's great. Yeah, love him.
Yeah, so good. Such a good artist, and I'm happy to say that the world is unfair, and somehow this guy is an amazing writer too, because this book rules, and this is no doubt going to be one of my favorite comics of the year. And the premise behind it is one night Batman is sort of keeping watch over a prisoner transfer from Arkham Asylum to Blackgate Prison, and they're transferring a rogue called EMP, who's a villain who's an original creation by Jock, but you can probably guess what he does or what his power is. And so basically what happens is, while he's being transferred to Blackgate, EMP triggers an EMP blast that basically plunges Gotham City into darkness.
Oh shit. Okay.
And it's kind of like the gangs and the villains use it as an opportunity to essentially take control and fuck shit up, because the entire city's in black darkness. And so Batman basically has to complete this prisoner transfer while dodging gangs and while dodging villains and stuff like that. And yeah, it's a really good premise, and it was great. It was such a good book. I was and the art is incredible, obviously. So whatever Matt Reeves had planned for our Pats' next Batman movie, make it this. Yeah, this would be awesome. This would make such a great self-contained movie. Holy fucking shit, so good. I know they want to do Arkham Asylum, but this is better than that. This is pitch black Batman, just fucking shit up. I'm here for it. Sounds so good. Yeah, and it's very grounded, like street level Batman, because none of his gadgets work.
Yeah,
he doesn't have Alfred in his ear because his comms are down, and it's just like complete street level, like him just jumping over buildings, like dodging villains and dodging like corrupt cops and stuff like that, and it's really, really good.
I just want to see Robert Pattinson's Batman spurg out for an entire movie, because that's basically what this would be. Moving on to the main event, I definitely need to pick that up. I'm probably gonna go to the local comic book shop and see if they have it.
Mm-hmm.
But Not Okay has been released on Hulu. The latest from its auteur ingenue star, Zoe Deutsch. I think I spelled her name wrong a few times. But this is kind of a neat premise, kind of timely, about a influencer who just sheer accident lies her way into people thinking she survived a terrible bombing in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the elevator pitch for this. It's very satirical, at least it attempts to be. How much did it succeed for you?
Yeah, so I think pretty well. I think this movie a lot of times is completely on point. It's very clearly written from the perspective of somebody who's like lived a lot of these situations or knows what they're talking about. Like, you can tell that what is her name? The writer-director Quinn Shepard You can tell that she has either worked in these places or lived around people that are like this, or gone
Quinn
to these
Shepard
events.
directed this. I thought it was Zoe Deutsch who did.
No, Zoe Deutsch, she produced it.
Oh,
and she's obviously starred in it. But yeah, Quinn Shepard directed. She is a child actor.
I am having a fucking Mandela effect moment here because I had the roles completely reversed. Yeah, because it was Blame. Wasn't that the first movie they did together?
Yes, yeah. Well, Blame is Quinn Shepard's first movie.
Okay.
Her only other movie, and she was a child actor, and she actually directed Blame when she was only 21.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she's still very, very young, but yeah, what I was saying is, you can tell that she's lived a lot of this stuff, and it's very on point. It's very, very well done. It's skewering of this culture of social media and influencer culture, but. For me, while trying to keep things spoiler light still, I would say this movie, like a lot of comedies, makes the mistake of thinking that it needs to say something in its final sort of minutes.
Yeah.
In its final sort of 20 minutes. And it gets way too dramatic. It feels like they need, I feel like they felt like they needed to say something when they've been saying things the entire movie and been doing a good job at it. And it sort of turns into a drama, I guess, in the final 20 or so minutes, and that really did not work for me. And there's a particular character we'll get to that really did not work for me, and so yeah, I'll leave it there.
Okay. Yeah, it was uneven kind of throughout. Even though when it was worked, it was really biting. But there were some dud moments where it was like, you could have tightened that up a little bit. Maybe that's just kind of just quibbling at things though, because competently made otherwise, and a lot of the writing is just a little bit too obvious at times, like the guy who survived the Ariana Grande show, whose email address is God is a Woman fan 1995 or something like that. Yeah, there's just a few characters where I was like, oh, do you have to be here again? Like the Indian dude at the office, where I was just like, do we have to have another awkward bit where he's really obviously trying to be genuine, or trying to pick her up or whatever he's trying to do, and she's just aloof to it and uninterested. Do we have to do that again? That happened 4 or 5 times. And they I don't think do they ever have an interaction that actually breaches that gap? I don't think so. Because then because the plot takes her completely away from him from that moment on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that guy has I think it's the same guy from Deadpool, if I remember right. The cab driver. But
yes, it is.
Yeah, I mean, he's in 2 or 3 scenes, and then you never see him again once the movie gets into the more dramatic, once it starts kind of getting on its roller coaster ride of a plot.
What did you think of the title cards? Did that work for you? Do you like it when movies use title cards, or do you just find them too clever sometimes?
I thought it was fine. It was another. I guess I'll bring up, this is another one of those movies that does the fake warning at the beginning.
That's right. I tried to screen cap it, and Hulu does not let you use screen capping technology.
Oh shit. Yeah, where it says, this movie features an unlikable female protagonist. I thought that was a little clever.
Honestly, necessary, because this is one virtue of this. They are unabashedly putting the most unlikable human being you've ever seen on screen, but you love how awful she is by by the end of it. At least I did, especially.
Oh yeah,
not to I kind of don't want to spoil. We're skirting around the spoilers, but there's certain parts of the ending where I was like, fuck yeah, good. I'm glad that didn't happen for them. You know what I mean? It's but then at a certain point you're just left with, okay, why did we watch this? This is obviously reprehensible behavior. We all know this. So what was the point of the experience? And I guess I was unsure initially.
Sure. I mean, I think it's I don't know. It's kind of one of those movies that I feel like this movie does have a lot to say, but it's one of those movies that people watch and then they like forget about like 30 minutes later as they just go back to scrolling on Instagram or like scrolling like Twitter, it's like look at all these, it's the movie that while you're watching you say like look at all these dumbass like fickle like dumb, just like social media people, like fuck them, they're so like they're so worldly and they're so stupid, and then like 30 minutes after the movie's over the same person goes and starts scrolling Twitter and liking shit, and
exactly,
it's just it doesn't like, people aren't going to take the message from this that they should, I don't think, and which is kind of a shame, but
because it does do a good job of kind of showcasing and skewering the full spectrum of the social media user. There can be a lot of different kinds of people. It can be gays and lesbians who have like gay lesbian bowling night, and it can also be really awful, basically like, I guess the only word for them is Trumpian people who wear shirts like I love hot moms and just stand in front of a green screen and like some of those people had a lot of fucking fun, playing their roles. And so a lot of very obvious, caricatures, of online personalities. But the reality is everyone who would watch this is one of those people. You know what I mean? To an extent.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought those guys up, because I was going to actually bring them up too. Those two guys who were like in front of the green screen and they're like, if any serial killer needs to go practice, here's her house, here's her address. And there's a lot of people in this movie. There's a lot of small roles that are very memorable and very, very well done. Like those guys, and you had mentioned like the gay guy who talks about going to queer bowling, and then like once she becomes famous, he's immediately like, want to come to queer bowling? Everyone's a little bi. He says to her,
which is something that she basically had said. I made out with a girl once. It basically makes me bi. And what's really hilarious is that Zoe Deutsch and Quinn Shepard are like engaged, like, and they've been a couple ever since they made Blame together. And they got and she proposed while making this movie, which is really fucking hilarious considering what Quinn Shepard's character does to Zoe Deutsch's. You know what I mean? Just like, but
wait, Quinn Shepard's character, is she in the movie?
Yeah, she's the lesbian journalist who destroys her.
Oh, okay. I guess I didn't put that together.
Yeah, she's also in Blame. She plays the female like co-star. She's so they're an interesting pair. Now that I actually know like what is actually happening as far as who's making what and who is who, because I had their names reversed for some reason. I don't know why.
Okay. Yeah. And then I guess while we're talking about memorable characters, you got to shout out Dylan O'Brien. His character was phenomenal. Just like the Pete Davidson, weed neck tattoo, like literally like one of the most atrocious and like gross characters ever, but he was great at it. Brilliant. Like he was a highlight of this movie, especially his sex scene. It is one of the most grotesque things ever, but I loved it. I actually laughed out loud quite a bit while watching this. And I did too.
This is really enjoyable, even though I think some people might they feel a little miserable by the end. But I think that's kind of like, you need to just keep laughing at what's going on. Like, don't feel bad for her. Like they if you feel compassion for what she's going through, then you are as narcissistic as she is. Is basic, like, this is kind of like a psychology test. It's like where does your empathy go when you watch this movie?
That whole, I think that's probably the highlight scene in the movie, that whole like influencer party with like the teeth whitening device and their sex scene, and the and then afterwards when she's walking down the street and gives the like swag bag that she got to the homeless lady,
because they did a good job. They set that homeless lady up like from like the very beginning. She's just a part of the tapestry of what New York life is like, or like life in the big city, as Tim Dillon likes to say. You're just on the phone trying to like come up with some reason to still be alive while you work your shitty job at this shitty magazine that you don't like, or website, whatever it is that you don't like. And you're just standing in front of this homeless person who's just staring up at you. You're just waiting for something to happen. And I watched for her, and to their credit, they kept on having her pop up, and that was the payoff. That was a great scene.
And the girl, like the employee from like the matcha store, like tries to put the sign where the homeless lady's sitting and just like puts it in front of her or
That's
whatever.
right.
Yeah, that was
great.
Very, very on point. And
what do we think about influencers? Do we think that they are a net negative on society, or have we always had them? To an extent.
Oh God. Yeah. Since the word influencer actually became a term, or I guess a job, I guess some people would say.
Yeah.
It's made that whole idea even worse. Like, I guess to speak on, our thoughts on social media personally a little bit. Not to go down the rabbit hole too much, but I'm somebody who doesn't have any form of social media other than Facebook. And me having Facebook is only a side effect of the age I was when Facebook became popular, because, I was that age. I was in college when Facebook, started gaining popularity, freshman year of college. And that's the only reason I have it. And I've never done Twitter. I've never done Instagram. I've never done Snapchat, any of those, because I think they're absolutely reprehensible, and they're everything having to do with them has made people worse overall as people. Yeah. And so that's kind of my top level 30,000 feet thoughts on that. And so I don't know if you have anything to say on that subject, but
just to echo the sentiment that social media is having a net detrimental effect on mankind's ability to interaction with each other. I guess is my baseline thoughts on it. It used to be something that I was deeply, living on. It's how I interacted with people from a distance. But it ultimately, changes how your brain fucking works. It's engineered to just basically be gambling, but you're just gambling on the chance that you maybe will get some attention from somebody. And to see how and if anything, that's what this movie is kind of about. It's like, this is what social media addiction can do to a person, essentially. But in this movie, it's the result of a really evil guinea pig stepping on a keyboard and changing some masking layers on Photoshop accidentally. And I think that's kind of like why this movie's so charming, even despite having one of the most memorably reprehensible and awful characters throughout. But it's just an exploration of her guilt, and just eventually it overtaking her. And I guess nothing drives home guilt more than getting nutted in by some, Pete Davidson wannabe, and having to get Plan B and wash it down with Diet Coke next to all the homeless people with their brown bags. There's nothing more demeaning and degrading than that. But I guess we maybe should dive into more spoilerific territory, because there's a character we haven't brought up, and I'm assuming that's the one you want to discuss.
Exactly, yeah. This is kind of what I was alluding to. This character Rowan, a high school sort of poet / social activist. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm against what she's saying. I don't disagree with it, but I just find her character completely impossibly infallible and completely one note, and all the positive attributes, none of the negative, just she was so annoyingly one note, and I eat, sleep, and breathe activism. And it was just, it was the one part of this movie that I was like, ooh, this is from a lesser movie. This aspect of this movie is from a movie that's worse than the one that I'm watching. And
the only defense I can come up with is that it's there to just illustrate the difference between Zoe Deutsch's character and Rowan. The difference in perspective and intent. And it's just she's so perfect and absolute to just drive home how much of a faker Zoe Deutsch's influencer character is. But yeah, it's like that. What are we left with? It's like, is there any actual growth happening? Like the character tries to claim, when she's found out, or just something more interesting happening with Rowan. Like it would have been more interesting for Rowan to, instead of getting mad, maybe contrive some way to like defend Zoe Deutsch's character and keep the lie going just for the sake of the activism. And then you really have some insightful commentary going on, I think. And a much more, a movie that's much more like on the level with the highs that do exist would be there. Like, but yeah, like what the choice they do make, which is to just go right for the fucking gut and then the liver and the kidneys with a knife over, like they're just like prison shivving, the character figuratively. And that's what the end of this movie is. It's very bizarre.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's just like there's so many comedy movies that make this mistake where they just feel the need to say something important in like the last like act of the movie. And I don't know, I just like, I like the fact that Danny, Zoe Deutsch's character, didn't get her redemption arc. I do like that fact.
Yeah.
But I think they didn't take it far enough. And this is how I would have ended the movie. I would have done kind of the same thing they did, but then jumped like 3 months later and show how fickle people are on social media about forgetting about being outraged about something for like a week and then completely forgetting about it.
2012.
Make Danny like go out in public and she, I don't know, goes to a restaurant or something and gives her name to the server and she's expecting like a dressing down, but nobody remembers who she is because people are already past her. People have already forgotten about her and nobody cares anymore about what she did. And then she's kind of left to live a normal life, sort of.
Okay.
Because that would have been, I don't know, I think they just didn't take it far enough, because that's the truth behind it, is that if this movie would have gone a couple months longer, nobody would have gave a shit about her anymore. They would have just been on to the next thing that everybody wants to be mad about.
You're right. Yeah. God. I feel like we just made a better movie. I think if you just like smushed what our two visions for the conclusion, could be. Yeah, because like it still is a choice to out herself, but it's in a rejection of someone so pure and perfect actually revealing themselves to be just as dishonest and duplicitous as she is. You know what I mean? She's been aspiring to be like Rowan the whole movie. She's just aping everything about her to just maintain the lie. And then what if Rowan becomes more interested in maintaining the lie than she does, and then stops it. And then she's like, no, I got to put a stop to it now. And that's actually a sign of character for Zoe Deutsch. And then she still can be run through the punishment can still happen. The redemption arc can still not happen. But it's still, there is some redemption because she still made the choice to end it when supposedly good people would not have. And maybe that's why they didn't do that, because it kind of does make her the hero of the story, because she stops the runaway train. She makes the choice instead of it just being a threat. And I think maybe that's why it's kind of cheap, what the movie actually does versus the headcanon for the better movie that exists, that where someone else has a writing credit, on this movie besides, Quinn Shepard or whatever her name is. And it's kind of frustrating because so much of this movie works very, very well, and it just does not stick the landing as savage as the ending is. It's like, instead of like planting and posing and applause, it's like you go down the hill like that Buttercup and Wesley roll down in The Princess Bride. You know what I mean? You just hit a steep incline and you're just careening down a ravine. Like, that's actually kind of what this movie does to not only its character but to the audience. And you're just left in shambles at the bottom going, Jesus, okay, where's my arms over there? My legs are over there. Okay, now what? And it would have been more interesting to see, life goes on afterwards. And that is the truth. People would have like the frickin' lady Rachel Dolezal was pretending to be black. Like, she still is able to. Yeah. She is a part of. She is a functioning member of society still, despite still maintaining her delusion and getting a lot of people to go along with it still. You'd think, because there was initially the backlash to her was intense and severe, but now she has a documentary. She has an OnlyFans. Life is good.
Yeah, it is disappointing, but I think overall, I think I would still recommend this.
Absolutely.
Just because it really, up until then, it's such a good movie. It's just so on point, and it's so true to life, I guess. It doesn't feel like it's being written by some like 40-year-old dude who like knows nothing about this stuff. The parts that feel like they're written by that are few and far in between. Like you kind of talked about earlier, like all the stuff with like the Indian guy, and it's a little too like I don't know, a little too 13 Reasons Why type movie.
Exactly. Yeah. And God dang it, what was I gonna say? Because there's just some great little bit performances, to be sure, like the dad. Even like the mom is pretty competent, and I think I've seen her in something else before. I can't place her though.
Oh, you know who she is?
No.
She's Lane Price's wife in Mad Men.
Hell yeah, yeah. There we go. Yeah, and she's also in Californication too. She's some sassy British snatch that David Duchovny seduces at one point. But as far as this movie is concerned, it definitely is worth a watch. It might hit you a little too close to home, but if you can't laugh at yourself, then you can't laugh at all. Really, you're just faking it. You're just as much a sociopath as the main character is.
Yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on or anything? I guess the only thing I wanted to mention real quick is I do also like the little detail in her apology, her online apology, where she was like, I was under the influence of marijuana and it affected my judgments.
Yeah, the cop out, because that's the thing. That's why like James Charles on his influencer reality show actually has a whole lesson on how you apologize. And then he proceeded to release an apology video for sending dick pics to, young boys. Like if you don't like that, like that's. I watch like tea spilling YouTube on occasion because I just want to know. I want to know what the kids are talking about. I desperately, want to not act my age. I want to be able to keep up. But I'm way behind. Once you hit 30, you just want to go back to Rage Comics. Life was so much simpler back then. And Rotten.com, because like this just showcases, the narcissism built into social media and how your brain chemistry is hacked to feed into it, and it can corrupt and destroy anybody. It's ruinous, and I wish that they had kind of, I don't know, because like I don't think anybody who derides the main character for what she did actually learned a lesson about their own social media use in the movie. So why would anybody who watched this? And I think that ultimately, is what stops the satire and commentary from landing, and the ending kind of also contributes to kind of missing the mark. But things that do work really well for me is all of the social media like graphics that are in this. Every like shot of a phone or like a computer, every time you're seeing like the posts or the texts, all of that feels very real and like ripped right off the internet. I feel like they almost, all they had to do was just change the names and maybe some other little context cues, but otherwise they could just copy and paste directly off of like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, I'm sure. And that aspect worked really well. And just like that whole milieu, like all of the people who are like, today we're going to be talking about so-and-so and she's even worse than Hitler. Like that whole like part of YouTube getting acknowledged is probably not good. We should not let it know that people are seeing it, except for the fact that they are part of the problem. This is my last little point that I'm going to insert in here. Though that even though I watch it, I'm a part of the problem. The whole drama, economy, the drama marketplace they need people like the main character of this movie to exist, to even have livelihood. You need the Logan Pauls, you need the shitheads, you need the douchebags, you need the people who organize conventions that fail, you need the people that pump and dump, crypto on children and direct them towards gambling sites. You need these scumbags to talk about. So nothing meaningful will ever happen to them. It's like they have monetized scumbaggery, and I feel like this movie doesn't quite highlight that. I wish it would have. Maybe that's a different movie altogether.
Yeah, you could have it in the sequel.
Exactly. If we need a follow-up. Coming out, yeah.
Highly recommend.
Highly. It's
go
fun.
Watch it. It's on Hulu.
And she's an impressive filmmaker. Quinn Shepard, she really is.
Oh yeah,
like
for sure.
Even Blame was really transgressive, and surprising that someone so young could make something that looked that competent. Mm-hmm. And we'll have to see if she levels up on her next film.
Yeah,
coming out next week. We have quite a few things coming out next week.
Yeah, busy week.
Bodies. The latest. Is Pete Davidson in this? Yes, he is. Speaking of Pete Davidson, him and what's his name? Lee Pace.
Yes. Yeah, I believe so.
And a bevy of Gen Z girls all hang out in a mansion, do drugs, and accidentally kill somebody while playing like a party game. And it's just trying to piece together what the fuck happened in that situation.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. I'm kind of looking forward to this one. Another A24 release, I'll mention, and so, but not. I don't know. It doesn't look like one. It's not a. This isn't a typical like go-to A24 movie, in my opinion. It looks a little more like mainstream, I guess I would say.
Yeah, like I'm surprised Bella Thorne isn't in this. Like this.
Yeah.
Like this was the kind of there's a lot of these kinds of movies, but like this is another movie that is getting painted as being some really biting and prescient satire. So we'll have to see. Like this is a busy week. I won't be able to see this, probably because Minot sucks. But maybe Matt will have a report if he has enough time to hit the theater twice. Yeah. Also releasing is, let's see, if it'll advance fast enough here.
I believe Bullet Train. Is that what we got next?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get the player to cycle ahead. I think I gave us too much time to talk about bodies.
Oh, that's okay. To speak a little bit on Bullet Train. I finally saw that about a week ago they finally put an R rating on this, which I was very, very happy to see, because I was waiting for them to slap a PG-13 on this at the last second, but it is going to be R. So I'm much more excited about this now. It gives you confidence that the I can't remember the director's name, but he's the guy who did Deadpool. Can do something on that level again.
So is this Deadpool 1 or Deadpool 2?
Yeah, Deadpool 1, I believe.
Tim Miller, the Blur Studio guy.
Oh, maybe not. Maybe it is 2.
I thought it was one of the John Wick people.
Let me look real quick, but it is. I think it is also David Leitch is the guy's name.
Okay.
And I think he might have worked on both. Yeah, he worked on both. He directed Deadpool 2, and I think that he did like the stunts for John Wick or something.
Okay. Yeah.
So
right. Yeah. Because this looks to be one of those martial arts movies where you're just in a confined space the whole time, and it almost kind of looks like a Jackie Chan like Hong Kong style comedy, just with like some of the situations like this is the quiet room, we have to fight quietly now. Yeah. Like that whole bit. And like I don't know, it looks fun. Like there's something throwbacky about this, but I'm just worried that it's going to be derivative and lame. But I'm looking forward to it more than anything. And this is going to be one of the movies we talk about next week. We are doing a double feature. If I advanced it further enough ahead, we can move on from Bullet Train to talk about Prey, which will be on Hulu, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hulu.
And this is, if you don't know, this is the Predator franchise film that's a prequel. It's set during the heights of the Comanche Nation, before the white man came over those hills. And the Comanches were the masters of the horse and the masters of their domain. And a young female warrior is hunted by a predator. And so it's all primitive. There's no guns to bail you out. It's going to be kind of different and a new look. And it loosely inspired by a fan film, I believe, or a fan comic, or maybe it was just coincidental. But yeah. Now, what else do we really know about this? Who's directing it?
This is from Dan Trachtenberg, the director of 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Okay.
So yeah, he makes some pretty good smaller. I think he works good with smaller budgets, making something big out of a smaller budget. And I think that's kind of what he's done here.
Very good. And then we have an Amazon Prime original film. Is that what this is?
Yep.
And this is 13 Lives, which is about the famous case of those children that were stuck in a cave. Is that correct?
Yeah, in Thailand. This is the... last year I'd watched The Rescue, which is the documentary of this, basically. And this is the dramatized version, and starring Viggo Mortensen and Colin Farrell, I believe.
And directed by Ron Howard.
Yeah, directed by Ron Howard. So
yeah,
this has been getting some good press over the past couple of days. I think they started letting reviews are coming out now, and so I've heard good things. So I'm gonna see if I can get to this one before we talk next week.
Yeah, we also have on Peacock They Them, and this is a series, right?
This is a movie.
A movie. And is this available on Peacock free, or do you have to be a subscriber?
I think this is one you have to pay for. Yeah, it's a subscriber only, and Kevin Bacon. It's a slasher film, I think, is what I've heard it called. And the director, his name's John Logan, and this is his directorial debut. But he's normally a screenwriter, and he's written screenplays for huge movies like Skyfall, the James Bond movie.
Oh, this guy. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And
he's been
Alien Covenant.
He was the go-to writer for all of a lot of those Daniel Craig Bond movies. And I didn't realize he was involved with Alien Covenant as well. That's kind of different, because this is the gay conversion camp slasher movie, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. That should be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And yet again, it's this Kevin Bacon trying to make up for what Bernie Madoff did to him, taking all his money. He's taken anything. Just give the man some work. It's not as bad as Nick Cage, but yeah, you see this guy taking a lot of shit that you just can't believe he's doing.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That's for sure. Okay, let's advance this, because now we also got I can't believe this thing is real, but Netflix's adaptation of The Sandman, the seminal Vertigo series by Neil Gaiman and a whole slew of artists. It's one of the foundational pillars of I guess modern adult fantasy comics, and bringing it to the mainstream, bridging the gap between superheroes and what could be possible by just letting creative teams do whatever the fuck they want. This was a part of that. And it looks like I don't really give a shit about who's casted as what and what their skin color is. I just want this to be good, because we haven't had a goddamn thing come out of the Netflix factory of adaptations lately that has been worth it. Even The Witcher was looking creaky season 2, to such an extent that we completely forgot to talk about it in the episode that we had planned to. Do you remember that? We just blew past it and forgot to talk about it, because there really wasn't much to say. And my concern is that they're going to take something as powerful as that comic book and just give us kind of like with American Gods. That show didn't really click with me the same way the book did. And that's my worry with this.
Yeah, it's I mean, I hope the same. I hope it's good. I hope it doesn't look cheap. I mean, Netflix is known for that. They pick up all of these grand spectacle things, and then they just make the cheapest looking shit ever. And I hope this isn't one of those situations where they're oh, we won't spend as much money on it in the first season, and then if it gets popular, we'll throw more money at you. Basically, like they really really fucked up their adaptation of Lock and Key, the
Yes,
Joe
they
Hill,
did.
because that series, it's such a that whole comic series is so grand, and it spans generations of a family, and there's all these fantastical elements, and the TV show is just like a fucking like CW show that maybe looks a little better. It's like what they turned that into was bad, and I hope they don't do the same here.
Yeah, like it depends, like on how it looks visually, how they handle certain storylines in particular is really important to me, especially if they like, because we already have the Lucifer TV show that was made for moms, that's on Netflix currently, and now we're actually going to have like the true genesis of that Lucifer series, which was the Sandman. Like the Mike Carey Vertigo series, was born, off of the Sandman, and it's going to get so confusing. So I don't know if they're actually going to do it. So they might just have that particular hell storyline just happen, and then just let Lucifer just not be in the show any longer, or have it be a parallel narrative within whatever the Sandman is. But yeah, like my main concern is they get storylines right, that the aesthetics are right, and that we don't get a lot of virtue signally tweet postings from Neil Gaiman about how the fans need to just like jump in a lake or something. Can we just have it be positive if it's worth being positive over? But we'll see. Yeah. I'm actually, like I didn't realize it was coming to us so quickly. Yet again, they just don't advertise this shit well enough in advance. They just kind of just like, here it is, and it's like falling out of their hands as they go. But yeah, we'll have to see. I have hopes, but I know better. Like, that Lock and Key? That wasn't even the original like pilot that was made for Lock and Key. When we were at Comic-Con, they showed the pilot for Lock and Key, and then they didn't pick it up.
That's right. I remember that.
They had a panel for it and everything. And I think it was Nick Stahl was going to be in it. Yeah, and then they made whatever fucking bullshit they made. I haven't seen it. I trust you that it's CW shit.
Yeah.
Moving on through them.
I think we had one more.
One more, yes. Carter, which is a Korean action movie.
Yeah. Did you watch the trailer for this by
chance?
No,
I haven't. All I saw was some images on Google Image when I was grabbing something for it. But yeah, like I am excited just based on like the two like shots of this movie that was in the Google Image search.
Yeah, this movie looks so bonkers. This is sort of in the same vein of like The Raid. This is from a director. His name's Byung-gil Jung. And I don't know if you're familiar with this movie, but he did a movie a couple of years ago called Villainous.
I haven't seen that one. No.
Okay, I haven't seen it either, but it's a pretty well-regarded Korean action film. But the shtick with this one is it's all one take.
It's one of those movies.
So
okay.
It's one of those. So I don't know if it actually is or if it was all kind of stitched together, but the thing that strikes me, I mean, the trailer for this is absolutely bonkers, but the thing that strikes me about it is all of the action looks so clear. Like, the camera is pulled back enough that you can actually tell what's happening.
Okay.
And the moves that people are doing, the sort of martial arts, it's all very clear. It looks good. It doesn't look like they're, just punching air. Mm-hmm. It looks like they're connecting. It's very kinetic. And so that's what has me excited. It's not like, Jason Bourne type shaky cam, like you can't tell what's going on. So
yeah, like fuck Paul Greengrass for what he did to action movie cinematography, by the way. This has me excited. I am into this. I want to see this. Because there aren't too many one-take action movies. And like, you're not counting, what was it, 1917? That doesn't count.
Yeah, I guess that's not really an action.
That's
the only other one I can think of recently was Extraction, the Chris Hemsworth movie.
That was a single take movie?
Yeah, it was.
God, that's just how little I care about. But now I'm interested.
Now I'm interested. that movie it's kind of throwaway, I guess. It's the type of movie that you watch on like a Saturday night when there's nothing else to watch.
Yeah.
But it is impressive. The one take style of it is pretty.
Yeah.
And I actually think we were talking earlier about David Leitch, and I think he might have actually been involved with that.
That would follow. Yeah. That would make sense.
Somebody from the John Wick team. I mean, everybody that made John Wick has just spun off to do like their own.
They
shit
all
now.
have a career, just because of those movies. And I'm looking forward to Carter though. Like it's been a bit since I've seen a new Korean movie, and I swear to God, I have 3 or 4 different versions of formats, rather, like DVD and Blu-ray, and then a 2-pack of the Blu-rays of the Raid movies. So I am itching for something like that. And and I know that those filmmakers and those actors have done things since then, but yeah, like I like that. I like that kind of action movie where it actually feels like the teeth are rattling in their mouths every time they get kicked, and the knees actually look like they're hitting someone's jaw. Like I'm here for that.
Yeah,
and that was it. So now in lieu of a parting question to close out the show, we're gonna do a summer movie check-in on our summer movie wager. There have been some developments. Unfortunately, Matt, these numbers are not correct. You are actually in the 600s as of this moment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm doing better.
your points are the same, but your position, your place is shifted. So I feel like something happened to somebody else above you. And because I'm starting to understand how the points really work, because it's entirely based on what you chose and then how close you got to being right. Right? So it's like the closer you are to the position that you predicted, the more points you get. You get 10 points if you get it perfect. And I forget how many you had nailed. And but with mine, I only had 2 10s.
Okay.
Yeah, and I guess I'll just let this advance to me, but apparently I'm 160 something, 69th.
Oh wow! Okay, nice.
And I was listed as a notable player. And
that's pretty good, because I think from what I looked at, I don't know how many points he has now, but the guy who is number 1 in the world has 72 total, 72 points, and I'm guessing that's because he's probably one of the only people who put Top Gun as his number 1.
Yeah, nobody fucking got that right, and except for maybe him. And what's really funny is that the only dark horse of ours, did you pick Where the Crawdads Sing as a dark horse?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, and so did I. Our other 2 dark horses have been pushed out. They're no longer in the top 10. But Where the Crawdad Sings, that late release, it's already kicked Bob's Burgers and Downton Abbey just out the top 10. And unless Bullet Train does something, things could shift still, because the things
what I think is going to happen, Downton Abbey is actually still in the top 10. It's number 10, I believe.
Oh, is it? Okay, never mind.
Yeah, but it's not going to be for long, because what I think is going to happen is this past Friday, the DC Secret Life of Pets or whatever, or DC Super Pets, that's going to kick out Downton Abbey, and then next week when Bullet Train comes out, I'm pretty sure that'll probably kick out the Black Phone.
Yeah, okay. So things are going to shake up. But it was just funny to see, the where I had wound up, because I thought I was doing very poorly. Just based on like how high I put a few of those movies. And I guess I got 4 and 5 correct, I think it was, or something like that. I can't remember. But otherwise, it's just a combination of how close is it, and we're only 5 points apart or something like that, and
I think at this point the top 5 is locked in. There's I believe it's Top Gun, Doctor Strange, Minions, Thor, and Jurassic World, and I think unless, I don't know how well DC Super Pets is doing, but that I guess could kick one of those out at the 5th spot, but I think it's probably locked in.
It's not getting good reviews. Yeah,
Oh yeah, for sure.
like I listened to Kermode and Mayo in specific, and they tried really hard to like it, and they just couldn't. You know, which isn't shocking, because they're just two stuffy Brits. But yeah, this was fun to come back on it, because I was doing really bad. Like I was in the fourth. I thought there was more. I thought I was in the 2000 level at one point. Okay. I know for sure I was way at the bottom, and to even hit 3 digits is stupid. It should not have happened. I didn't think I got close to getting any of it right.
It's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out now, because August doesn't have that many humongous movies coming out, but there is technically still another month of this, and so there could be a couple surprises with Bullet Train and Bodies, and I don't know, I guess Easter Sunday. I don't know how big, that might be the blind side of this year or something. I don't know.
What even is that?
It's just a family comedy, I guess is what I would call it, about what's that guy's name? Stand-up comedian Joe Coy. I think that's his name.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What?
It's basically a family comedy about his. Is he Filipino? I think he's Filipino.
Something like that.
His family basically is what it's about, and he's kind of translating his real life experiences to screen, and so
his big fat Greek wedding.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That could
Crazy
be big,
Rich Asians.
Exactly. Yeah, that could be this year's Crazy Rich Asians. So
fascinating.
But yeah, we'll see. And then there's also that Beast movie with
the Idris Elba. Idris Elba fighting lions. If he doesn't fucking punch a lion in the face, they have failed the world. They have failed Africa. They have failed England. The humanity will have been let down if we don't see that man punch a lion in the face. It has to happen.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. It's the last day is Labor Day. That is when it ends. So we will report back in about a month, and I'm just kind of curious. Have you thought any more about, if you win, what you're gonna make me watch?
Yes. I kind of wanted it to be something fun, less than something terrible, and so yeah, I have a couple things in mind. And it will kind of depend, and I just want to clarify the rules. It's it has to be just a movie, right? It can't be could it be a show? It could be a show. Okay.
Yeah, we'll say I think what our rules were that it needs to be easily acquirable, so something that is either on streaming or can be rented for a reasonable price, and then under 3 hours. Okay. So if you want to make me watch 3 episodes of a TV show, have at it, I guess.
Okay.
But the way that I was thinking for you, I won't reveal what I have in mind, but my thought was kind of, I want to have you watch something that I think is really good, but that I don't think you would ever probably watch.
Okay.
If it was in your discretion, something that I think that you would never actually take the time to watch, but I think is actually a good movie. So that's kind of how I was thinking about it. Yeah. Instead of going the mean route with it.
And I'll probably do the same for you. I think that is probably a more productive way to approach this. Yeah, because I could just make you watch Salo, but why would anyone want to be my friend after that? Have I ever told you about how I recommended our buddy Zach Thorseth used to hit me up and be like, "Hey, what movie should I watch?" And I would just be like, "Hey, watch this." I would just shoot him a message.
And, a Serbian film here.
Well, I didn't do that. But he was just like, I want to watch something crazy, and I was like, "Okay, watch Irreversible. It's on Netflix right now."
Oh God.
He didn't tell me that he was watching it with his fiance and her friends. He was asking me to curate movie night for them, and I chose the most excruciating and traumatic experience I probably could have given him. So yeah, I'm not gonna do that. No, you got to be kinder. And yeah, like actually, I want you to grow from the experience, just like you want me to. So yeah, that could be fun. I just want to before we close, I just want to briefly shout out the fact that the Minot, not Minot, the North Dakota State Fair is finally fucking over, and I can, I went out there 5 times for work, and the only good thing that came of it was that I met this crazy guy who has come up with a way to fast track bourbon creation. So I just want to highlight this product briefly, and I want you to be aware of it. I guess I'll have to. I can't really get it in focus.
What is it called?
It's just called Whiskey in a Week. So what you do is you go to a liquor store and you buy a jar of that like corporate moonshine. Like any brand will do. And you just fill up, this ball jar, and there's this bag in here that has a bunch of wood chips that have come from this dude in the kilt on the cover. He's from Jersey. His family had a farm, and he's like he's at MIT, and he's the guy that invented like what is basically Metagel, this like film that they can put over wounds to stop bleeding instantly. So he's a genius, super genius guy. And in his spare time for fun, he takes these trees that he planted as a kid, these oak trees, and he chops them down, and he's like done experimentation and fired them perfectly. So when he mulches it, and you get this like tea bag of oak pellets in here, and you let it sit for however long you want it to sit, and you can replicate the flavor notes of like a Woodford Reserve in a week. And if you let it sit for 2, it gets more scotchy. And he has like, this is how you get it. Like you use this bag, this is the results you get if you do X, Y, or Z. So he has these like basic instructions, but instead of like having to like do home brewing like for beer, and you basically need a science kit and like open flame to make it work, this is just set it and forget it. And that was the appeal. And yeah, it's kind of neat. And I just wanted to shout out the product. And you can
sounds cool. How much do those go for, the jars things?
$30, but he gave me 2 different like bags of mulch, so I can make 2 batches. Basically for the price of 1. I was gonna write about him, but because he isn't a local, my editor kind of dissuaded me from giving him any coverage. So this is my way of shouting him out. I'll probably find a way of like tagging him and letting him know that I did this, because he was an interesting cat. He was fun to talk to, and he had an interesting story. And so if you're looking for a Christmas present for the whiskey lover in your life, maybe look for this. It's kind of fun. It's do it yourself. So that was not paid for promotion. That was just a genuine plug. And he will never pay us for that, unless he does want to become a sponsor, in which case we will work something out, I'm sure. But yeah, next week we're doing Bullet Train and Prey, streaming and theater. Should be fun. And after this, I am going to have to deal with, being the bartender for a like astrology tarot smudging girls' night for my fiance and her coworkers. So it's a bunch of baristas and my fiance, and it's just Hank and I being the only boys, and it's gonna suck, but it's gonna be fun. It's not gonna suck. We'll make the most of it.
That sounds fun.
We'll see.
Find out your future.
Oh, get an actual reading, and then find out how everything's gonna go to hell in March. We've all been there before. But thank you for joining us. This is from the Mezzanine. Have a good night. Thank you, Matt, for once again joining me.
Yep. See ya.
See ya.